What's it like to care for someone who's sick? To wait for answers, to hope for healing. These are the moments our nation's healthcare teams and their patients face every single day. And it's why we do what we do. We're Siemens Healthineers, and we pioneer breakthroughs in healthcare for everyone, everywhere. Across the country, from rural communities to busy cities, our medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory solutions help providers deliver care that can be smarter, faster, and more precise. With more than 17,000 employees across the United States, we're driving innovations that support healthcare teams, strengthen systems, and truly change people's lives. Because for us, it's about more than technology, more than innovation. It's a promise, built for generations. Siemens Healthineers.
Across America, healthcare teams are managing complex demands. At Siemens Healthineers, we're here to help. With more than 17,000 U.S. team members, we're pioneering breakthroughs in medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory diagnostics, giving healthcare teams the tools to deliver smarter, faster, more precise care. Because when the right technology meets the right moment, diagnoses are clearer, treatments more effective, and lives can truly change. For us, it's more than innovation. It's a promise built for generations. Siemens Healthineers.
On a cold night in Vienna, a teenage girl slips into the dark waters of the Danube. When her body is pulled out, clutched in her hand is a soggy piece of sheet music. In Budapest, a shopkeeper closes up his little store for the last time. He's later found dead by his own hand. A note at his side quoting the lyrics of a mysterious song. In London, neighbours complain of a gramophone record droning the same mournful tune on repeat. Inside the flat, they discover a woman's lifeless body and an empty bottle of pills. Different lives, different cities, but one eerie connection. Gloomy Sunday. It was the song playing in each of these tragedies. A song so haunting and despairing that it earned the nickname the Hungarian suicide song. Rumoured to be linked to over 100 self-inflicted deaths, including that of its composer. Perhaps not every tale was true. Even then, some wondered if it was all an urban legend. But by the late 1930s, the dark legend of Gloomy Sunday had taken on a life of its own. How could a simple melody, barely more than 3 minutes of music, leave such a trail of sorrow in its wake? The answer leads back to a broken-hearted pianist in Budapest and a melody born of despair. I'm Sarah Powell, and this is Obscurata, because some stories have no ending. Rezo Seres was not a famous man in 1933. He was 34 years old, a struggling Hungarian pianist and songwriter, etching out a living in the cafes of Budapest, some say Paris, and a one-time circus performer who had given up acrobatics for music. That year, his life hit a low point. The story goes that his fiancée had left him, frustrated with his failures. In his loneliness and gloom, Seres sat at the piano and composed a tune in a minor key. a melody so bleak and haunting, it seemed to pour straight from his aching heart. At first he called it Vega Villeneuve, meaning the world is ending, and the original lyrics he wrote spoke of despair at a world engulfed by war and ruin. But Seresse wasn't much of a poet, and the words didn't do the melody justice. For that, he turned to his friend Laszlo Javor, a poet who knew a thing or two about heartbreak. Javor wrote a new set of Hungarian lyrics titled Tomorrow Vasárnap, Sad Sunday. The song we now know is Gloomy Sunday. In Javor's verse, the narrator longs for a lost lover, mourning her in a churchyard each Sunday amid little white flowers and prayers, and contemplating suicide to reunite with her. The imagery is hauntingly beautiful and morbid. One line, for example, laments, "Little white flowers will never awaken you, not where the black coach of sorrow has taken you." In the final verse, the singer resolves that his heart and I have decided to end it all, imagining his own funeral and the peace of death's reunion. The words paired with Seresse's slow minor key melody had an unsettling power, eerie yet undeniably poignant. When Seresse tried to get Moody Sunday published, he met resistance. Hungarian music publishers knew a marketable tune when they heard one, and this was not it. It was just too depressing. One publisher famously told Seresse, "There is a terrible, compelling despair about it. I don't think it would do anyone any good to hear a song like that." Indeed, early on, the song attracted little attention and only deepened Seresse's gloom. But in 1935, a well-known Budapest singer, Paul Kalmar, decided to perform it, and even recorded it. Once Gloomy Sunday hit the airwaves and gramophones in Hungary, people did listen. And that's when the strange stories began. The Hungarian press started reporting on a string of suicides, all in some way linked to the song. One of the first cases mentioned was a housekeeper in Budapest who had died after ingesting poison, reportedly while still holding the sheet music of Gloomy Sunday in her hands. Not long after, a Ministry of Finance official shot himself in a taxi. In his suicide note, he quoted lyrics from Seresse's song. As the deaths mounted, tabloids eagerly connected the dots. They dubbed Gloomy Sunday the suicide song, and some went so far as to claim the Hungarian authorities had banned it to stem a supposed suicide epidemic. Short of combing through the 1930s Budapest newspapers, it's hard to know how much of this was true, but the idea of a cursed song was sensational enough to spread. By 1936, newspapers across Europe, from Switzerland to Italy and beyond, were printing reports about the song that drove people to die. Across the ocean, such morbid notoriety only piqued interest. American and British music publishers smelled a hit, or at least a profitable controversy. That same year, 1936, two competing English-language versions of Gloomy Sunday were hastily produced. In New York, Tin Pan Alley lyricist Sam M. Lewis penned English lyrics, while in London, Desmond Carter drafted his own adaptation. It was Lewis's version, with its plaintive English title, Gloomy Sunday, that caught on. In late 1936, Hal Camp and his orchestra recorded the song in the US, giving English-speaking audiences their first taste of Sures's masterpiece. Lewis stayed close to Javel's theme of suicidal heartbreak. My heart and I have decided to end it all. Death is no dream, for in death I'm caressing you, goes one line in his translation. But he added a final verse, not present in the original. In this added ending, the singer wakes from a nightmare and realises that the mournful events were only a dream, implying that his lover is still alive. This optimistic twist was an attempt to blunt the song's bleak edge for sensitive listeners. Even so, Gloomy Sunday in English remained a thoroughly sorrowful tune. It began to spread, recorded by a handful of dance bands and pop singers on both sides of the Atlantic. Yet the song truly cemented its legend a few years later in 1941, when Billie Holiday recorded her own version. Holiday's soulful, aching rendition, released on OK Records in the midst of World War II, became the definitive interpretation of Gloomy Sunday, and it brought the song to an even wider audience. When Holiday's melancholic voice wrapped around the lyrics, the song's reputation for gloom only grew. In wartime Britain, the BBC promptly banned the broadcast of Holiday's Gloomy Sunday. Officials deemed the song too upsetting for a nation already weighed down by war and loss. For years, the BBC would only allow instrumental versions on the radio. Vocals were considered liable to unduly depress the public. Incredibly, this ban was not fully lifted until 2002, proving how enduring the song's dark reputation was. In the United States, Gloomy Sunday was never officially banned, but it certainly carried a stigma. It was a song you wouldn't request lightly. By the 1940s, the epithet Hungarian suicide song was familiar to many, and some band leaders avoided playing it at all. Still, the notoriety only fueled public curiosity. Records of Gloomy Sunday kept selling, and the myth kept growing. And what of Rizo Sures, the man at the centre of this storm? Through all of Gloomy Sunday's international fame and infamy, Sures remained in Hungary, watching from afar as his most famous work slipped out of his control. Life had more hardships in store for him. During World War II, Sures, a Jew by birth, was conscripted into a Hungarian Labour battalion, put to work digging trenches and clearing minefields. He survived the war, but his elderly mother perished in a Nazi labour camp. The war years even saw Sures himself revisiting Gloomy Sunday. He reportedly wrote new wartime lyrics to the melody, turning it back into a song about global despair, titled "The World Has Ended." After the war, Hungary fell under a communist regime, and Sures's old-fashioned, gloomy cabaret songs were now out of favour, even suspect. He was blacklisted from state radio. Work became scarce. Ceres made ends meet by playing piano in bars and clubs. Patrons would request the song, of course, and the composer would oblige, playing the famous tune like a resigned ghost at the banquet of his own fate. It's said that Ceres grew bitter about Gloomy Sunday. How could he not? He had set out to write a simple song of heartache, and instead he was being blamed for an epidemic of death. According to one anecdote, when the song became a worldwide hit in the late 1930s, Ceres attempted to reconcile with his former fiancée, the love who had inspired it. Tragically, shortly afterward, he heard that she had poisoned herself, and next to her body lay nothing but a copy of the Gloomy Sunday sheet music. In another telling, her suicide note contained just 2 words: Gloomy Sunday. The story may be apocryphal, but it symbolises the cruel irony. Ceres could not escape the shadow of the song, no matter how he or anyone tried. In January 1968, 2 decades after the song first spread across the world, Rezo Ceres himself became the final, and perhaps most poignant, entry in Gloomy Sunday's tragic role. At 68 years old, despondent and in declining health, Ceres jumped from the window of his small apartment in Budapest. He survived the fall, fate seemingly giving him a last-minute reprieve. But even that was not enough to save him. In the hospital, a few days later, Ceres ended his life by strangling himself with a wire. The man who had unwittingly spawned the suicide song had taken his own life, sealing the legend with blood. Hungarian newspapers ran the obituary: Rezo Ceres, author of Százomorú Vársnap, dead by suicide at 68. It seemed the song had claimed its final victim, or so the stories said. Was Gloomy Sunday truly a cursed song? Or was it simply a mirror held up to an already despairing world? Looking back, historians note that the Great Depression of the 1930s saw suicide rates spike worldwide. Hungary in particular had one of the highest suicide rates in Europe. In that context, a melancholic song about suicide might naturally become a magnet for morbid coincidences. Many who died with Gloomy Sunday on their lips or in their ears were likely already suffering from profound depression. The song was an outlet or an accompaniment to their sorrow, not its sole cause. The composer himself questioned some of the early press accounts. Ceres pointed out that hardly any sheet music had been printed initially, casting doubt on the story of the housekeeper who supposedly died with the sheet in hand. But once the legend caught fire, such logical voices were drowned out by sensational headlines and ghostly tales. And to be fair, the song's almost supernatural gloom feels cursed when you listen to it in a dimly lit room on a lonely Sunday. The legend endures because it captures our imagination, the idea that a melody could open a door to death. In the decades after its birth, Gloomy Sunday continued to send shivers through new generations. It's been recorded countless times, over 70, by some counts, and artists are still drawn to its beautiful darkness. Billie Holiday's version remains the most famous, but singers as varied as Ray Charles, Sarah Vaughan, Elvis Costello, Sinead O'Connor, Sarah McLachlan, Heather Nova, Bjork, and many others have put their own spin on it. Each rendition, no matter how polished, carries that undercurrent of eeriness. In 1999, the song's story inspired a German film, Gloomy Sunday, A Song of Love and Death, which wove a fictional tale about a cursed song that drives listeners to suicide. The legend even piqued the interests of scientists as recently as 2007. A research paper in a journal of psychiatry examined whether there was any empirical link between Gloomy Sunday and suicide rates. The researchers found no evidence of a curse, just the echo of a painful era. Through covers, films, and stories, Gloomy Sunday secured its place in pop culture as a sort of musical urban legend, the dirge that could kill. And yet, those who love the song will tell you it's not about death, not exactly. It's about longing and grief, about love lost and an ache that words alone cannot express. Rezo Seres himself, in his rare moments of candor, seemed both proud and horrified at the success of his creation. I stand in the midst of this deadly success as an accused man. This fatal fame hurts me. I cried all the disappointments of my heart into this song, and it seems that others with feelings like mine have found their own hurt in it, he wrote, reflecting on the uncanny legacy of Gloomy Sunday. In those words, Seres captured the cruel paradox of the song's fame. It was his pain, but once released, it became everyone's pain. Perhaps that is the secret of Gloomy Sunday's enduring power. Not any literal curse, but a truthful expression of misery that listeners recognise in themselves. All these years later, the song remains what it always was, a melancholic lullaby for broken hearts. Play its first bars, and at once you are transported to a world of flickering candles and sorrow. It's just a song, and yet the stories and atmosphere it carries make it so much more.
Across America, healthcare teams are managing complex demands. At Siemens Health & Ears, we're here to help. With more than 17,000 U.S. team members, we're pioneering breakthroughs in medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory diagnostics, giving healthcare teams the tools to deliver smarter, faster, more precise care. Because when the right technology meets the right moment, diagnoses are clearer, treatments more effective, and lives can truly change. For us, it's more than innovation. It's a promise built for generations. Siemens Health & Ears.
Gloomy Sunday has outlived its composer and its supposed victims to become a legend. Even now, on a sombre afternoon, you might find yourself drawn to its strange, mournful beauty and feel, for a moment, the chill of that long-ago Sunday when the world seemed unbearably sad. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/The Whispering Woods, where for £2.50 you can subscribe to the Obscurata tier and listen to all episodes ad-free. Or £4.50 you can listen to this podcast and our other podcast, The Whispering Woods, ad-free. We're also on Apple Premium, where for $4.99 a month you can listen to both podcasts ad-free. I want to say a quick thank you to Rog for fact-checking and editing. And as always, stay curious and sleep with the lights on, just in case.
Across America, healthcare teams are managing complex demands. At Siemens Health and Ears, we're here to help. With more than 17,000 U.S. team members, we're pioneering breakthroughs in medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory diagnostics, giving healthcare teams the tools to deliver smarter, faster, more precise care. Because when the right technology meets the right moment, diagnoses are clearer, treatments more effective, and lives can truly change. For us, it's more than innovation. It's a promise built for generations. Siemens Health and Ears.
G'day USA, it's Tony here from the Tony and Ryan podcast. My best mate and I, we make a podcast together every day, daily laughs, but you don't have to take our word for it.
Ali listens to the show from North Carolina. Why should other people in the US listen to this podcast?
They're just going to make you laugh your ass off and make you be a better person, start your day off better, end your day off better. Whenever you listen to the podcast, you're just going to fall in love.
Oh, well, no one's ever said anything that nice before, so I love it.
I love it too. Listen to Tony and Ryan.